everyone, my name's Rabea and I'm here on behalf of Victory Amps to introduce to you a brand new amplifier, the VX Kraken Mark II. A little bit of background about the Kraken, and in case you don't know who Victory are, we are a British-based amp company that specialise, I guess, in catering for all genres of player, whether you play like blues or funk or pop or metal or shred or rock or whatever. We've got amps across the board that will help you out, and they're split up into different families. We have the Jack family, the Sheriff family, the Duchess family, the Copper family, and of course the Kraken family. I was drafted into Victory Amps in 2014, the end of 2014, where I was asked to help design a metal modded amplifier, and that was really cool because I'd never done anything like that before, and I got to talk about my favourite amps and tones and how I could distill those into a small lunchbox head. And that was the remit, so there wasn't a lot of space. And the two amps that I really enjoyed at the time and I was using in stereo were a JCM 900 and a PV 5150 block letter, and I really liked them. I used them in stereo. They were both set to a sort of gain channel, and you could use your volume pot to clean things up, get a nice mid-gain push clean sound, and then you could throw your volume all the way up and it would be a disgusting level of high gain goodness. So that was the two amps that I sort of submitted and said, let's start here and go from there. And Martin Kidd, the chief designer, and him and me even hit it off straight away. We just started, trying out different prototypes and listening to these amplifiers, seeing what it was that I liked about them and seeing how we could do something unique for Victory. So Martin designed the very first Kraken, we tweaked it and finally released it, and it was awesome. It was a great amplifier to be involved with, and it was really popular in the Victory Amps range. Lots of players really enjoy it. Because it's small, it's 50 watts, you can switch it down to 9, and it catered for those that wanted to play extended range guitars, because you could hit the bass focus switch on the back and it would tighten everything up like a high pass filter, if you want to imagine it that way. And it just had two great channels of different types of gain that you could clean up if you wanted to, or play really heavy stuff. And I used to use 2 in stereo on both channels and get that blend that I was sort of so accustomed to. So fast forward until literally yesterday, which would have been the 19th of October 2023, where we very excitedly released VX The Kraken Mark II. We started designing this amplifier pre-Pandy, so that would have been 2019, something like that. I had the first prototype brought down to the studio with Martin, and it was really cool because we wanted to base it off the original VX Kraken, so we didn't want to change too much about it, but there were some additions we wanted to add, and user feedback that we took into account. We listened to the people and added those features to make what I think is probably one of the most versatile amps that we make now. So sat to my right is the VX Mark II. As you can see, it's had a slight facelift, different lick of paint on there, but the two main features, I would say, or three main features, I think is probably more fair, is we've added a clean channel to gain 1, we've added a presence knob, and we've added a balance pot and presence shift on the back. And I'll go into more detail about those shortly, but we'll start with the clean channel. So I'll just play a little bit for you first so you can hear what it sounds like. So just a quick demonstration of how the clean sounds. I'm personally really happy with how it ended up. There were a few different approaches to trying to get the clean channel to work, because obviously, as I said before, it's part of gain 1, so it shares the same gain pot, it's part of the same channel. How we did it on the Super Kraken, the VX 100, which is the 100 watt version, was we engaged half a preamp tube, or should I say, to get the clean, we went from gain 1, we took out half a preamp of the tube in the gain stage, which cleaned it up, which worked really well, but there was more real estate in that amplifier, whereas obviously this thing's pretty small. So it had to be done differently. I'm not an amp engineer, designer, so I had no idea how that was going to be achieved. However, luckily, Martin Kidd is, and he came up with a really good approach, which was to attenuate the first gain stage of the gain 1 channel. And what's really nice about that is because it is part of the gain stage, it's part of that gain channel, you have all the harmonic content, the richness there, so you get nice chimey clean tone. But also, by way of attenuation, it inherently will compress a tiny bit, because attenuation does do that. So there is a subtle, really natural feeling, mild compression to the feel of the clean channel in this amplifier, which for me personally, I love because it feels really nice under the fingers to play. And if you've ever played a high headroom clean amplifier before, they can be a little bit unforgiving, in the best way, but they can be unforgiving. So it's nice that in this particular amplifier, it feels a little more comfy under the fingers, because I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me playing a lot of high gain, you go to clean, it's kind of exposing and you feel a little bit scared. So I like that. It holds your hand, so to speak, which is really nice. So that's the clean channel. I'll give you a quick demonstration of how the crunch channel sounds, and then we'll talk about one of my favorite features that we added not so long ago. Just to say, for all those wondering, I'm using the Neural DSP Quad Cortex on the floor, which is providing me effects, time-based effects in the loop and stomps in front. It's placed between the preamp and the power amp, and I'm able to dial in different effects as and when I need them. So that was the crunch channel, or gain 1 as it's labeled, and basically this is the channel I mentioned that is sort of based around like a JCM 900 kind of tone. And the reason that I like this channel in particular is that it's very dynamic. So this would be the channel that I would normally go to and other players use for everything from a low mid-gain push clean tone all the way through to like a hard rock rhythm, or even high gain tone, because it's capable of that, which I'll demonstrate momentarily. But as you could tell, just based on my pickup position, it can either be like a mild mid-gain tone. The more you dig into the guitar, the more it crunches up and gives you an actual thick crunch. Or if you switch pickup positions, it can become a different version of clean, like a chimey clean with that little bit extra hair on it, rather than the sort of really chimey clean that you would find on the clean channel. So it's a really, really good channel, really dynamic. And let me show you what happens when you turn the gain all the way up, because that is worth showing. So at the minute, you can see it's just about 11 o'clock, I believe, and this is the kind of tone you get. Same tone that if I go into a position 2. So it's very dynamic, but now if I turn the gain all the way up, so it's super thick, rich, high gain tone that takes pedals really well. So I'll throw a tube screamer on in front, you can hear it tighten up. So that is is gain 1 on full, and it's awesome because it's everything from a low to mid gain push clean kind of thing, and then you can even use it as a rhythm channel for your high gain rhythm if you want to, especially with the tube screamer in front. Sounds nice and thick. So it brings me on to the next point of this channel, which is a change that we made right at the last minute. So as I said before, the clean and the crunch share the same gain pot. Now if you want to run the gain high on both your clean and your crunch, what you might find is that the clean is really loud, because normally when you turn the clean gain pot all the way up, it's less compressed by way of design, clean amps are, that it's going to be super spiky and pokey. And then when you move across to crunch, if it's sharing the same channel, you might find it drops in volume. So to try and demonstrate that, I've turned the gain up quite high. On the clean, this is what we've got. And if I move to crunch, you should be able to hear there's a considerable difference in volume when I'm digging in. So this is the cool thing. We added a balance pot on the back, which is from the send level of the amplifier. And what that allows you to do is even out the volume gap between the clean and the crunch, so that you can run the gain that high, get the clean how you want it, and also use the crunch as more of a rhythm channel. It's a really, really cool feature, but it was a very last minute change that we made because some of the user feedback we had was that a lot of players prefer gain 1 for most of what they play, and then they'll use gain 2 for like their soaring gain lead channel, but not so much for their rhythm channel. They'll use gain 1 for that. And so we were like, okay, well, if people want to use clean and gain 1 as their kind of overall palette of tones and then gain 2 for the high gain lead, then we should be able to sort of give them the option to balance everything out a bit more. So not only do we have the balance pot on the back, but we also have switchable assignable masters, so you can just use gain 1 and clean and masters how you want to create the amp and the setup that you want. So let me just mess with the balance pot and even this out. So. So that's a quick example, but as you could hear, it evened out a lot more. You can tweak that finer if you wish, but it's there for you to mess around with and get the two volume levels similar between clean and gain 1. So gain 2, this is an awesome channel, lots of fun, lots of gain. This is the channel that was based and inspired by the 5150 block letter. So when Martin came to design his own amplifier, this was the palette of tones that we wanted to use as reference. So I'll give you an example of how it sounds, because it's worth pointing out this new edition of the Presence knob, when it's at 0, like it currently is, that is how the original VX Mark I sounds. So this is what we've got for high gain. So that is gain 2, as if you've got a Kraken or you've heard one, that's more or less how it sounds between Mark 1 and Mark II. But as I said before, we've got this Presence knob now, so we can really mess around and get more of the sizzle that is kind of synonymous with the amps it was inspired by. So. So that was me just running up the presence, getting it just above, I guess, 12 o'clock. You can keep opening it up if you want. Dip the mid off a little bit just to try and go a bit more traditional in the world of metal, I guess. Scoop the mids, boost the presence. But yeah, the next cool thing about this is the presence shift switch. So, as I said before, when we run the presence off, that's how the original Kraken sounded. Now, for me personally, you know, that's what I'm most used to. So it was when we added the shift switch, what it essentially does is it moves the area at which that presence pot affects on, like, if you imagine an EQ or on the frequency spectrum. You know, when the shift switch is out, it's sort of in the sort of high mid area, and as you press it in, it moves up the frequency spectrum, so it becomes more sizzly at that, you know, really high end. And the cool thing is that if you're like me and you run it off and you just hit the switch on, it just opens out that original sound just a little bit. So let me just press it in and out, and you should be able to hear the difference. So, hopefully you could hear there was a difference there. It just opens out a little bit more. And the great thing is that you've still got the entire spectrum of presence on the pot that you can dial in if you want to go really sizzly. So let's just, for the sake of experimentation, do such a thing. Right, so we go. Throw on a tube screamer really quick. So yeah, it can do the traditional sizzly high gain thing by using the presence shift switch and the presence knob. The cool thing with the presence shift switch is obviously if you're an extended range player, let's say that you play baritone or 7, 8, 9 or even 10 string, if you do play one of those, is that the amplifier that you're using the presence might not necessarily help you in the kind of tone you're trying to find. It might, because, you know, most guitar amps are kind of designed around normal tunings. But as soon as you start going lower, it might be that it doesn't necessarily affect the area that you want. So by using the shift switch, it gives you more flexibility to dial in, you know, the kind of high gain tone that you want with those kind of guitars. With regards to tubes in VX Mark II and even the first VX Mark I, it uses two 6L6 tubes. You can switch those out to EL34. There's a little switch inside the amplifier just on top of the chassis inside the cage that you can switch between it taking EL34 or 6L6 depending on the kind of tube tone that you like. And it also features 4 12AX7 preamp tubes as well. So yeah, I think that pretty much rounds off all the key features that have been added to the VX. Like I said, it's got a super nice chimey clean. You've got the balance pot between the clean channel and the crunch channel. You've got a switchable, assignable master volumes. We've got a presence knob. Got a presence shift switch. It's 50 watts, switchable down to 9, has a really good effects loop. And I just think it's an awesome little amplifier, and it's capable of shifting some serious air. I couldn't be more proud to be involved. I couldn't be happier with the outcome. And I really, really hope you enjoy playing through one of these if you want to try one out. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this video. If you have any more questions about any Victory Amps products, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. And please like, subscribe and share this video. Click the bell icon if you want to keep up to date with all the other Sweetwater notifications here. But until next time, I've been Rabea, and I'll see you all very soon.